The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. My son-in-law Brandon smirked across my daughter's perfectly set dinner table, his eyes challenging me over crystal wine glasses I'd paid for. The 8 guests around us shifted uncomfortably, silverware suddenly loud against china plates. My daughter Rebecca's face flushed crimson as she stared at her lap. "What did you just call me?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Oh, come on, Tom. Everyone knows what you are around here." And Brandon's laugh cut through the silence. The guy who fixes everything, pays for everything, and knows his place. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. I never set out to become invisible in my own family, but life has a way of happening in small increments, tiny compromises that pile up until you wake up one day and don't recognize your own reflection. It started after Sandra died. Cancer took my wife of 32 years in just 18 months. I was 61, alone in our 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester, rattling around like a single pea in an empty can. Rebecca was my only child, my brilliant, beautiful daughter who'd married Brandon Matthews, a man with impeccable credentials, expensive taste, and absolutely no money to back it up. "Dad, you should move in with us," Rebecca suggested 6 months after the funeral. "That big house is too much for one person. We have the guest suite downstairs. You'd have your privacy, but we'd be together." It seemed perfect. I could be close to my daughter and my grandkids, Jack and Emma. I could help around the house. And I'd have company again after months of deafening silence. What I didn't realize was that I was stepping into a role already scripted for me. Financier, handyman, and live-in help. A breathing ATM machine with a toolbox. Brandon had always been cordial before I moved in. He worked in financial services, something with derivatives and hedge funds that he explained with lots of jargon and few specifics. He drove a BMW, wore tailored suits, and had the confident handshake of someone destined for the corner office. "Tom, great to see you," he'd say at family gatherings, clapping me on the shoulder. "Rebecca says business is going well." My business, a commercial cleaning service I'd built from nothing into a regional operation with 300 employees, was indeed going well. Not glamorous enough for Brandon's taste, but profitable, very profitable. "We're holding steady," I'd answer. Understating success was a habit from my blue-collar roots. When I sold the business 2 years after Sandra's death, the numbers were substantial enough that I could live comfortably for several lifetimes. But I kept that information private. Only my attorney and financial advisor knew the full extent of my wealth. I'd always believed that money talked, but wealth whispered. The changes in Brandon were subtle at first. He'd ask me to watch the kids while he and Rebecca went out. Fair enough. I loved my grandchildren. Then it was fixing the leaky faucet, patching the drywall, mowing the lawn, since you're home all day anyway. The financial requests started small too. "Tom, there's an investment opportunity I can't pass up, but we're a little cash short this month. Could you float us 10,000? I'll pay you back with interest once this deal closes." The deals never seemed to close. 10,000 became 20, then 50. Then the private school tuition for the kids, then the country club membership. "It's for networking," Brandon explained. "These connections are worth their weight in gold." I never said no. Partly because I loved Rebecca and my grandchildren, partly because saying yes was easier than confronting the growing disrespect, and partly because I was curious to see how far Brandon would go. The answer came at the dinner party. An elegant affair Rebecca had organized to celebrate Brandon's supposed promotion. 8 guests from his firm sat around my daughter's dining room table, eating food I'd paid for, drinking wine from my cellar, all listening to Brandon hold court about market trends and investment strategies. "What do you think about cryptocurrency, Tom?" asked Michael, one of Brandon's colleagues. Before I could answer, Brandon laughed. "Dad doesn't understand modern finance. He cleaned offices for a living." The table went quiet. "Actually," I started. "Don't worry about boring everyone, Dad," Brandon interrupted. Why don't you check if we need more ice? That's more your speed. That's when it happened. The servant comment that would change everything. Something snapped inside me. Not in an angry way, but in the calm, clear way that decisions crystallize when they've been forming beneath the surface for months. I excused myself from the table without getting the ice. Instead, I went to my room and made a phone call to my attorney, David Goldman. "It's time," I said when he answered. "You're sure?" David asked. He'd been advising me to take this step for months. "Absolutely. Execute the plan tomorrow morning." "All of it? The press release, the foundation announcement, everything?" "Everything," I confirmed. "And David, make sure the Forbes piece runs first." I slept better that night than I had in years. The weight of pretending to be less than I was had been exhausting. In the morning, I made breakfast for the grandkids as usual, kissed them goodbye as they left for school, and waited. The doorbell rang at 9:42 a.m. Brandon was in his home office on a conference call. Rebecca was at her yoga class. I opened the door to find a courier with a special delivery envelope. I signed for it, tipped the young man, and took the package to the kitchen table. Inside was the advance copy of next month's Forbes magazine, with a post-it note from David, "Enjoy the moment. You've earned it." I laid the magazine on the kitchen counter where Brandon would see it when he came out for his mid-morning coffee. Then I made myself scarce, puttering in the garden until I heard his shout, "Rebecca! Rebecca! Get in here now!" I smiled at my tomato plants and continued weeding. The magazine's cover featured a distinguished-looking man in his 60s, me, with the headline, "America's Cleaning King, How Thomas Sullivan Built a Billion-Dollar Empire from a Mop and Bucket." The article detailed how I'd sold my commercial cleaning business for $1.2 billion, my extensive real estate holdings, and my new charitable foundation. It mentioned my modest lifestyle and how I'd kept my wealth private while living with family. By the time I walked back into the house, Brandon was frantically Googling my name on his phone, his face cycling through shock, disbelief, and something like terror. Rebecca stood in the kitchen, magazine in hand, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, is this real?" she whispered. "Every word," I confirmed. "But why didn't you tell us? All this time, would it have made a difference?" I asked gently. Her silence was answer enough. Brandon found his voice. "Tom, this is incredible. I had no idea. We should celebrate tonight. I'll call the club, get us the private dining room." "That won't be necessary, Brandon," I said calmly. "I've made other arrangements." "What arrangements?" His smile faltered. "I've purchased a house in the neighborhood. I'm moving out this afternoon." I turned to Rebecca. "You and the kids are welcome any time. Brandon is not." "Now wait a minute," Brandon sputtered. "That's not fair to Rebecca and the children. We're family." "Are we?" I asked. "Families don't treat each other like servants." Brandon's phone began ringing and ringing and ringing. Word was spreading fast. The caller ID showed his boss, the same boss who'd been at our dinner table the night before. While Brandon retreated to his office to manage damage control, Rebecca and I sat at the kitchen table. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I knew he was treating you badly, but I didn't want to see it. I was afraid." "Of what?" "Of being alone, of failing, of admitting I married someone who only cared about appearances and money." Fresh tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know who I am anymore." I took my daughter's hand. "You're Sandra's daughter. You're stronger than you think." The movers arrived at noon. I hadn't accumulated much since selling my house, just clothes, books, and a few keepsakes. It took less than an hour to load everything into their truck. Brandon emerged from his office as I was saying goodbye to Rebecca. "Tom, let's talk about this reasonably," he said, his voice smoothly placating. "I admit I may have taken you for granted, but now that I understand the situation better, I'm sure we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement." "An arrangement?" I raised an eyebrow. "Well, yes." Brandon lowered his voice. "With your connections and my financial expertise, we could create some amazing investment opportunities." A family office, perhaps. I could manage your portfolio. After all, you've built an incredible business, but asset management is a specialized field. I couldn't help but laugh. Brandon, my specialized asset managers have doubled my net worth in 5 years. I don't think you'd be an improvement. His face hardened. You're making a mistake. Rebecca and the kids need me. No, I said quietly. They need someone who respects them, and who respects their family. I kissed Rebecca goodbye, promised to see the grandkids tomorrow, and walked out the door. My new house was nothing extravagant. A comfortable 4-bedroom colonial, similar to the one I'd shared with Sandra, but it was mine, free from expectations and demands. The moving truck pulled up behind me as I unlocked the front door. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Forbes article already trending, Bloomberg and CNBC requesting interviews. The foundation announcement goes live at 3 p.m. Ubri. I sat on the front porch steps, watching the movers carry in my belongings, and felt a strange sense of peace. Not vindication exactly, something quieter and more profound. I had reclaimed my dignity. The press descended within hours. Reporters camped at the end of my driveway, hoping for quotes about my rags to riches story. I declined all interviews except one, with a local business journal that had covered my company faithfully over the years. Mr. Sullivan, the young reporter asked, what made you decide to go public with your wealth now, after keeping it private for so long? I thought about the question carefully. Sometimes people need to see your value on paper before they recognize your value as a person. It's unfortunate but true. And what about your family? How have they reacted? My family is adjusting, I said diplomatically. Change is difficult for everyone. The foundation announcement created even more buzz than my wealth disclosure. The Sandra Sullivan Foundation would provide scholarships for single parents pursuing business degrees, along with mentorship from successful entrepreneurs. It was exactly what Sandra would have wanted, practical help for people working to create better lives. Brandon's fall from grace was swift and merciless. His colleagues, who had witnessed his treatment of me, wasted no time distancing themselves. His boss called me personally to apologize for any disrespect shown at the dinner party. Investment opportunities that had seemed promising suddenly dried up. The country club membership committee found irregularities in his application. Rebecca called me daily, sometimes just to cry. The marriage she'd tried so hard to preserve was crumbling under the weight of truth. Brandon, facing professional isolation and financial pressure, showed his true colors not just to me, but to her. 3 months after I moved out, Rebecca and the children showed up at my door with suitcases. "Can we stay for a while, Dad?" she asked. "Just until I figure things out." "As long as you need," I told her, helping bring in the children's bags. That night, after the kids were asleep, Rebecca and I sat on the back porch with glasses of wine. "How did you do it, Dad?" she asked. "How did you put up with his treatment for so long without saying anything?" I looked up at the stars, the same stars Sandra and I used to gaze at from our old backyard. "When you've built something from nothing, you develop patience," I explained. "I wanted to see who Brandon really was when he thought he held all the cards, and I wanted you to see it too without me telling you. But the money, all that time you let us think you were struggling. You paid for everything without complaining. Money is just a tool, Becca. It reveals character. It doesn't create it." She wiped away tears. "I don't know if I can forgive myself for not standing up for you." "You're here now," I said simply. "That's what matters." 6 months later, Rebecca filed for divorce. Brandon fought it viciously, demanding alimony and half of any inheritance she might receive from me. His lawyer contacted mine, suggesting we settle this family matter privately. David's response was succinct. "Mr. Sullivan's estate planning is complete and irrevocable. His assets are protected in trusts that specifically exclude your client. Further attempts to leverage his relationship with his daughter will be met with countersuit for harassment." The divorce finalized a year later. Brandon received nothing but his personal possessions and a car. He moved to Chicago, supposedly for a better opportunity, though rumors suggested he'd been quietly blacklisted in New York financial circles. Last week, we celebrated Emma's 10th birthday in the backyard of the house Rebecca now owns, a modest but comfortable home she purchased with her new salary as the foundation's education director. She'd discovered a talent for program development and a passion for helping others that had been dormant during her years with Brandon. As I watched my daughter confidently organizing games for a dozen squealing children, Jack came and sat beside me. "Grandpa," he said seriously, "Mum says you taught her that it's never too late to start over." "That's true," I nodded. "Did you know you were going to start over when you moved in with us?" I ruffled his hair. "No, buddy. Sometimes life makes those decisions for you. I'm glad you didn't stay our servant," he said quietly. "Brandon was wrong about you." "Brandon was wrong about a lot of things," I agreed, "but I got something valuable from that time." "What?" "I got to know you and Emma better, and I learned that respect isn't something you can buy. It has to be earned and given freely." Later that evening, after the party wound down and the last guest departed, Rebecca brought out a small cake with a single candle. "What's this?" I asked. "It's been exactly 2 years since you moved out and changed everything," she explained. "We wanted to celebrate your Independence Day." As my grandchildren sang an off-key rendition of "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow," I looked around at this small family gathering. No pretenses, no hidden agendas, just genuine love and respect. I had lost my wife, endured disrespect, and exposed my private financial life to the world. But sitting there with my daughter and grandchildren, I knew I'd gained something far more valuable than anything listed in Forbes. I had gained my self-respect. And in the end, that was worth more than all the billions in my bank account. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, just click on the box on the screen. Thank you so much for listening.